have cheap gas bills because of fracking. And I remember what it used to be in the 70s and 80s when I was growing up, $300-400 gas bills in a winter. Now I have $100 gas bill in the winter.
So one thing that you guys have to keep in mind when we talk about things like climate change, right? A lot of people, I remember when I fought with that Ryan over this, the Intercept guy, people are always very quick to say like, oh, climate change is really important to the average American, blah, blah. No, climate change is a very bougie middle class issue. You know, now it might affect poor people, but poor people care more at the end of the day about like their energy bills than whether or not they're making some arbitrary contribution to the net total difference in carbon in the world, right? That like what that guy just said is a very good point in terms of like, what does a working class person notice? Well, if the bills last year for energy were $60 and before that 50 and before that 40 and before that 30 and now they're approaching 100, that's the type of thing that a working class person notices. They don't care if they're making some vague contribution towards the climate of the entire planet or whatever. It's very, very, very important that if we're going to talk about moving into like a carbon neutral or methane neutral or whatever type of gas neutral future, you know, some sort of energy independent model where we're on green energy, you have to be heavily subsidizing this by the government. You can't have poor people or working class people like regressively paying the costs of these increases in energy. And the increase in energy isn't just in your bill as well for your gas or electric bill. It's also going to come in the form of paying more for goods and services. Your food is going to be more expensive. Things you buy at the store are going to be more expensive because the vehicles used to transport these things are going to cost more as well. Green energy is awesome, but it's still very expensive, and that has to be accounted for when you're talking about enacting government policy. Do you think Biden saying he'd want to transition out of the oil industry will be significantly bad for turning red states? I don't know. I mean, like right now, like, so if we bring up the RCP averages on, like, these are the big swing states that we're looking at right now, like all these are leaning fairly heavily Biden. You know, like North Carolina's close, 1.8. Florida's pretty close, 2.1. But every other state is like pretty, like 3 points or more swinging for Biden. You know, some of these 4 points, 5, 6, 7, 8 points almost. So yeah, I don't know. The oil comment was pretty scary. I think Biden needs to be very careful when you dance around that. We're going to get rid of oil. Well, hold on. When I say get rid of oil, I mean we're going to slowly transition over time, and we're going to support the workers that worked in those oil fields, because a lot of labor unions. What is the AFL-CIO? Is that the largest? This federation of unions, a lot of these guys have been very hesitant about certain green energy programs because they don't want to see all of their jobs just disappear forever without any sort of replacement. So you have to be appeasing these labor unions when you talk about moving towards these type of green energy models, because the average fossil fuel worker isn't just going to sit by and watch their job get trashed as the rest of America moves on and leaves them behind.
Who believes that Donald Trump has the better character? Raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. Who believes Joe Biden has the better character? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
No human being is perfect. None of us are perfect. It's a degree. I mean, you know, molesting children, as far as, you know, divorcing your wife or cheating on your wife. I don't know. Those are all moral judgments. I think the real character in someone holding office is what do they do for the people that they represent.
That's astounding, the better character for Trump, just with everything. Even if you say that, so for my mom, for instance, I think my mom says like, oh, boys make dumb mistakes, Stevie, but we're not here to pick the Pope or whatever. My mom will say something like that. I'm so curious, like what an average American thinks in terms of Trump being a high character person. That's just insane to me.
So you guys choose Joe Biden for better character.
I think he has character in the aspect that he's never been in a hot seat as much as Donald Trump has been. He can talk the talk. He can complain about COVID. He can point the fingers, but he's never been in that position where he has to make decisions. So
before Trump was in the hot seat, to be clear, Trump got famous politically in the beginning because he was talking about the fact that Barack Obama was from Kenya before he was in any kind of hot seat, just as an FYI. Also, Biden has been a senator for many, many, many a year as well, but he was also the vice president for 8 years as well.
Character has been one of the biggest holdups, one of my biggest hesitations in casting a vote. I support a lot of Trump's policies. I agree with a lot of what he's done, but I just really struggle. I don't know how I could in good conscience vote for somebody who speaks the way he speaks and says the things he says. On the other hand, Joe Biden seems much more moral, and although that's a little bit questionable, but he seems much more moral and much more honest, but I don't necessarily agree with his policies. So it's a choice between character and policy.
Okay, Mark, I want to make the point to you that is exactly what I concluded before the debate started. And that this is what I see. I'm going to offer this as a conclusion, then you're going to react and say whether I got it or don't have it. That you look at Joe Biden as being a more decent person, but he's not coming clean on where he stands. You look at Donald Trump and you know where he stands, but you don't like the way he talks. You don't like the way he communicates. And that's your problem with Trump. So you got doubts about Biden's policies. You got doubts about Trump's behavior. Is that a fair conclusion for how you, and I'm looking at a lot of heads nodding. Jill, your reaction to that?
Yeah, 100%. I've cringed over the past 3.5+ years over President Trump's tweets and how he has treated people and just not been decent and not been presidential. And I feel like that has hurt our country on the world stage. And so that's super disappointing. And that has been, for me, the question of whether I could vote for him when I agree with many of the policies. And I'm just not sure where Joe Biden again stands on many of his policies. Are we going to head towards socialism as a country? For the people on the two coasts, or New York and California, I should say, like maybe we see as people in more the Midwest or to the South don't want socialism. We don't want socialism. And so if we're heading in that direction, especially with Vice President Harris, I don't want to do that. But I don't know if I could vote for President Trump when he is such a nasty person sometimes.
Okay, Keith, you're going to get the last comment on this. And if, Danny, if you can get Francesca Chambers with McClatchy, if she's still there, let's bring her on. Keith, go ahead.
When it comes to character, I think it's a very important question because while President Trump is articulate, I apologize. Joe Biden is articulate. He also flipped, he's been on both sides of every issue. He's for fracking, he's anti-fracking, now he's oddly against oil. With President Trump, you get the exact, he hasn't really varied too much in terms of where he stands. You know exactly what you're getting with Donald Trump. He's not going to say it the best way, but in terms of character.
It's funny because during the debate, Biden actually brought up a specific point. Trump flip-flops so hard. In the beginning, Trump was talking about how, Xi has given us great messaging on the coronavirus. He's done it. We love China. China's done a great job. We're going to be over this on Easter. And now it's the Chinese virus. China sent this virus as a plague upon us. China is destroying America. Trump has flip-flopped back and forth on so many different issues. It's astounding to me that people don't see that or understand that.
You guys have all talked about the emails tonight and Hunter Biden, the emails, and wanting to hear more about that. I'm just curious as to whether or not that's affecting your decision.
I want an answer on it. And also what scares me is that the media refuses to talk about it. You get shut down on Facebook and Twitter if you even see the link or something. That's scary to me, and I think it deserves an answer.
Yeah, so to be clear, you can discuss it on Twitter and Facebook. You just can't link to actual leaked material because that was against their policies. I think Twitter has since updated their policies, but that was the reason why it was removed before, because they have a hacked materials policy where you cannot share images of materials that you've obtained illicitly. Also, it's insane to me that people will look at this Hunter Biden stuff that's a huge nothing burger, but completely turn the other eye on people like Kushner or the $400+ million that Trump owes, or any of these other pretty crazy the Ukraine impeachment. These people just don't care about any of this, I guess.
Is using his drug-addicted son to be a bagman with shady characters all over the world. I mean, you would think you'd want to address that.
I totally agree with Paulette. That is definitely a thing for me. It's a yes or no. And to me, it could be pretty cut and dry because, as a parent.
He said no over and over again, though. I'm sorry. I know these are undecided voters. They're giving us our, yeah. He's changing the narrative around something you have little control, the same as changing your stance. Changing the narrative around something you have little control over, the same as changing your stance. So Trump has not changed his stance. Trump is just the problem is, here's an example of changing your stance on something in an intelligent way, okay? So in the beginning, I believe that a lot of people didn't have the clearest of evidence about masks, whether or not they were effective. They were with SARS-CoV-1. They were with MERS-related stuff. And I think the swine flu. We didn't know 100%. They didn't want to ham up a lot of fear. They didn't want people to run out and buy all the fucking N95 masks and fuck over healthcare workers. So they said in the beginning that we're not recommending it. They never said masks weren't effective. They just said they only recommended them for caretakers. Now, eventually, as time went on and we found that even cloth masks were effective, people changed their stance. We're okay, yeah, cloth masks are effective. That's fine. That's way different than Trump saying, it's not a big deal. We have no cases. It's going to be over in a month. It'll be gone by Easter. This thing is a blip on the radar. This thing is blah, 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 blah. It's not a big deal. China's doing great. And then eventually, completely and totally 180 on almost every single thing you've said. Pushing fake drugs like hydroxychloroquine, saying that masks are dumb and making fun of people that wear them. This type of rhetoric over and over again, that's not evolving your position or changing it over time as you gather more information. That's just being a hypocritical piece of shit that's just saying shit that is, politically popular or whatever. Summer will kill the virus, yeah. If you think about it, Destiny, panic would have ended us. The White House bought time, albeit dishonestly. Most folks would be too butthurt to agree with this course of action. The problem is that, in order for me to say that you're right, I have to accept, conflicting realities. So here's the first thing that I just can't accept. I don't think it would have destroyed us. I think that if we would have known everything in the beginning, I think we could have handled it. We already had a massive panic. Believe it or not, we did have a massive panic. Remember when people were worried that stores were going to be out of food, when we were buying up 50 million things of toilet paper, 50 million fucking masks. So we already did it. So avoiding the panic That didn't even work well, okay? So one, we didn't avoid the panic, but two, I don't think we would have had a massive panic. Other countries alerted their population, did everything they could immediately, and they handled it. There were no mass panics. Unless you believe that Americans are exceptionally stupid or exceptionally prone to panic, that's not true. And two, even if I did accept, I can't even get past that first part. I can't, honestly. It's like diverging worlds. I would have to accept contradictory things to even believe this true. But even if I did somehow make it past that contradiction, okay? Even if we do ignore the fact that, yeah, that we got through the swine flu, that we got through the bird flu, that we got through Ebola, that we got through, any other random fucking health scare, right? Even if I ignore all of that, the second thing is, let's say that Trump was doing that. He wanted to buy time. What was he buying time for? Because there was, what was it, January, February, March. I think it was early February we banned travel from China, and then like halfway through March we banned it from Europe. It was about a month and a half on the timeline there. Even if we were just trying to buy time, what did we buy time for? Trump wasn't getting PPE ready. We weren't getting testing ready. We weren't getting contact tracing ready. We weren't creating a top-down unified approach for the states to handle opening and closing things like non-essential jobs or schools or federal anything. Like, none of that happened. So when you say that like, oh, I was just giving us time to prepare. Okay, cool. Well, here we are. What'd you prepare? Oh, fuck. Nothing. Like, it doesn't really work. So no, I reject that. Bullshit. Sorry.
That sounds like the same thing that we heard about, was it Ukraine, and with Donald Trump too? I mean, all of this is it's just another confusing situation.
And show of hands, who says it's not an issue and you're annoyed that we're wasting time on it? James and Keita. Keita, tell me why it's not an issue.
Look, all politicians lie. I mean, some of them are very honest and truthful, but most of the time politicians lie. It's those that cover the lies and does it well. But at the
Keep in mind that in the United States, if you're European and you're still awake and you're watching this, for the United States, we have fundamentally a massive distrust of government and bureaucracy. It's a little bit different than the relationship that some Europeans have with their governments, although it's not necessarily the same. But like most Americans like think that government is like a spooky bad thing, which is a little bit different than the average or general view of like a European of government. Although not to say that every European loves all the government as well, but that's like an average view like an American will have about government.
end of the day, somebody will find out the truth. So I mean, in my stance, I mean, it really doesn't matter because politicians are in it to lie to the American people anyway. So.
And James, why don't you think it's an issue?
Well, I feel like I was going through what everybody here in the panel was going through at some point. And back in 2016, I was telling my family, don't vote for Hillary Clinton. I surrendered everything to vote for Trump and supported him.
Why does this view arise in Americans? Like, why are they so uniquely anti-government? I mean, it's a pretty embedded part of like American law, constitution, society, and culture that the entire founding of this country was basically like fuck government, trying to tax us, and other things as well. Like, it's a pretty fundamental undercurrent of like all American thought that the government sucks and should do as little as possible.
I mean, primarily my reason was, Hillary and Obama.
Destiny, but how can you prepare when information was being withheld from China? They thought it was a simple flu at first that would blow over in 2 to 3 months. Not true. The only thing that China withheld was for about a week, China didn't release the actual sequencing of the genome until another company figured it out, and then they released the information that they had already had. The idea that China was withholding some crucial information doesn't make sense. If you believe that's true, why was South Korea able to deal with this virus so much more effectively than us when they had the exact same date for the first reported case? Why? Why did other countries in Southeast Asia deal with this so much better than the United States? It is not true that China was withholding information. That is just not true. It's a lie.
The Trans-Pacific, the TPP trade deal, and that was one of my major concerns for voting for Trump. And along the way, I just sort of like discoveries here. Just it seemed like
shilling for China. I'm not shilling for anybody. You clueless dipshit. See ya. Bye. Go jerk off in some dumb. I don't even know if you're a lefty or a fucking conservative. I don't know. It's hard to tell when I see stupid shit in my chat now, but.
So in the end, we're rebranding the TPP. And so
because the WHO said it was fine, but Asian countries knew that China and the WHO were lying. Okay, I'm only saying, I know that you're not going to listen because you're typing in chat, so you're probably more ego driven than most, but hopefully some conservative out there is listening. So if you think that China's lying, okay? If you believe that China was lying and Southeast Asian countries were smart enough to pick up on this, you don't think that the United States, with a president that has been more hostile towards China than any of the past 5 or 6 administrations we've had, you don't think that that guy would have been a little bit suspect of China? You don't find it weird that one of the most combatant towards China president we've ever had would just trust them when it comes to something like this? How does that make sense to you? Like, is there a little bit of cognitive dissonance in your head where it's like, man, all these other countries trusted China, or didn't trust China. All these other countries knew China was lying. But our president that's been historically tariffing them, fighting them in the courts, pulling out of agreements, like that guy trusted China? Like, how does that make sense? That can't make sense to you. There must be some like uncomfortable, like, fuck, yeah, that doesn't make sense. Like, why the fuck would Trump trust China when he's distrusted them on everything else? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It has to be like triggering your brain a little bit.
I am disheartened by this process, and I'm hopeful in 4 more years we can come up with 2 other candidates that will represent more me.
And is there anyone out there? I'm just going to ask you: is there anyone out there that does represent you? Is there anyone you particularly like?
Me? Not yet. I felt like I was robbed in this cycle. It was selected on Super Tuesday that Joe Biden was going to be my candidate for the Democratic Party, and I was like, seriously, that's who we pick? Okay, so now it's been like
This lady, I don't know why. I just can fucking see. It's because I've done politics long enough. I can just see into her fucking brain. I know exactly who this lady is. And she, my good friends, is a goddamn Tulsi Gabbard supporter. I can feel it. I see it. I just got it. I just got it right from her brain. I know she is. She's a Tulsi Gabbard. I can tell she's a Tulsel. I can just feel it radiating off of her. I don't know why. I just got the feeling.
so many other people that we could have had, and I didn't get a chance to vote in Michigan. I didn't get a chance to really have my voice be heard and hear more people say something. And so I am disappointed and disheartened. These are my 2 people I get to choose.
So as I'm going to call on you next.
Destiny's so misinformed on China, it's like he's trolling. What do you want to talk about regarding to China? Because I've read about this dumb shit so much. I've argued about fucking pharmaceutical shit or medicine. We can talk about hydroxychloroquine for a million years if you want. We can talk about stuff related to the US and China and the WHO if you want. Like, what part do you think I just said was wrong? We can argue about any of this. I've gone through so much of this with fucking Nuance Bro and other dipshits that think that either China held out misinformation for years. It's so funny. Like, the thing is that I can destroy your entire narrative with just a couple questions. Like, here's the first one. If China withheld so much information, why was South Korea able to perform so well in regards to this virus? We had the same case, the same day. I want to know what the answer to that is. Once you can answer that, then we'll move past, okay? I'll be looking at YouTube chat excitedly, okay? South Korea has a much smaller population than the USA. First of all, hold on. South Korea population, 52 million people. But that's not even the most important part. The most important part is population density. What do you think the United States population density is? 36 people per square kilometer compared to 515 inhabitants per square kilometer. I wonder what it even is for like California, or how about like for New York? We were to compare like New York to Seoul. It's 421 people per square mile. The overall population doesn't matter, right? So for instance, what we're looking at things like population density. If we did want to look at just population, right? Let's say you wanted to just go by population. I think Germany Germany population or France. Germany's a bit higher. France, okay, Italy. Italy has about 60 million people, okay? South Korea has about 52 million people. Let's take a look at Italy, okay? 37,000 deaths. Let's compare that to 455 deaths. Show me what other equivalent population countries had this response. It's not just because it's a smaller population. And population isn't even the relevant part here. It's population density. South Korea, Singapore, several countries in the region have already faced pandemics in the recent years. They had the experience and the protocols to face it. The US had nothing to prepare for it. What are you talking about? We literally had the whole H1N1 bullshit, the swine flu bullshit. We already did that. We already had the Ebola thing. The past administration literally ran an entire fucking trial, the Project Contagion or whatever the fuck it was called, to simulate an issue if we would have a pandemic in the United States. You can't say that we weren't prepared for it. We literally, as Biden said, as Obama said, we literally had a playbook for how to deal with stuff like this. Also, what about New Zealand? Have they dealt with a fuck ton of pandemics? Because if you look at New Zealand's numbers, and admittedly a much smaller area though, 25 deaths. Population density doesn't matter, Destiny. It's not correlated at all with higher transmission when controlling for other factors. Okay, well, if you don't want to go by population density, then fine. If you think that is irrelevant, then fine. Then just do 1/6 the US population times our deaths, and then 1/6 the South Korea population times our deaths, and look at the ratio. That doesn't help your case either. H1N1 and Ebola is nothing compared to SARS in Asia. I am from New Zealand, and having one unified central government does make rolling out lockdowns, et cetera, much easier. We have a central government in the United States. We have a federal government. We just didn't have any leadership in the federal government. The largest difference is likely cultural. Korean people adopted PPE and other forms of protection, and Americans still fight it. The most important thing South Korea did, if I'm correct, was contact tracing, was aggressive measures to trace who was infected, get them locked down. It wasn't just wearing masks. It wasn't just staying away from each other. It was the aggressive contact tracing they did, contact tracing, and locking down people that they thought were infected and figuring out who was infected. That was the thing that South Korea did differently. How could we do that in the US? But we didn't even believe it was a real problem. Destiny, the cure can't be worse than the solution. Do you think the cure in South Korea was worse than the solution? Do you think that the 455 deaths in South Korea is challenge that harder? Destiny, population density plays a giant role in the spread of an airborne virus? Yeah, I'm 99% sure that it does, but I don't even have to argue that point. Because South Korea has a massively subservient culture. The American culture of freedom and anti-government is what made it great, but it is also the reason it's responded to the virus poorly. I disagree. I think that in the past, I think the United States has come together and been pretty oppressed, like pretty hardcore, in order to do things that we thought we needed to do for war efforts. And for World War II, when we had like sports games and we were doing broadcasts for sports games, the people wouldn't talk about the weather because it was against the law. Right? Like, we were so hardcore in making sure that enemies of the state listening to our broadcasts couldn't figure out any kind of conditions related to the United States, that we were so careful on every single broadcast we did that even news reporters or even people like talking about sports games wouldn't say if it's a sunny day or if it's raining, right? This idea that we can't do like contact tracing to find a virus, I don't believe you. I don't. We fucking threw out like our entire fucking Japanese population into goddamn camps in World War II. Okay, you're gonna tell me that we can't do contact tracing? Come on, bro. I don't buy that for a fucking second. Come on. We didn't even have testing because the CDC screwed up. I don't think there was a drive to seriously get testing figured out. I don't believe that. I reject that. I still think that the United States, when fully mobilized, has more capabilities than any other single country on this planet. That's my American exceptionalism talking, and it's a fact we're the biggest goddamn economy and one of the best innovators in the fucking world. I do not believe sincerely that there was this huge push in the United States to figure out how to get a fucking test done correctly, that it takes us more than fucking 2 months to do it. I reject that wholeheartedly. No fucking way did every other country figure out how to test properly for fucking coronavirus, and the United States just somehow couldn't get it done. We couldn't get it done because the political will wasn't there for it. Full stop. 100%. Unless, if you honest to God think that we couldn't figure out a fucking test, then I don't know what the fuck. I don't know how you can simultaneously think America is this great, amazing country that can do all this shit, but we don't know how to test for a fucking virus. I don't believe it. You can't have it both ways. Would you agree the overall health of a country plays a big role in deaths? USA is one of the most obese countries out there. Underlying issues causes most deaths and people getting corona. No, it doesn't work that way. I don't even know if I feel like going into that. Comorbidity means that coronavirus didn't actually kill you. It was the comorbidity.
It was absolutely horrible. And this time I was hoping that we might have some more interesting candidates. And it's really disappointing to me. There were a lot of interesting people that maybe I didn't always agree with their politics on the Democratic side, but people who had interesting ideas and fresh perspectives. And it's really disheartening that it's come down to Donald Trump and Joe Biden.
I teach in an inner city environment. None of these candidates talk to my students and my students. And I think it's a necessity that these candidates need to start caring about the common everyday person. Everyone's talking about everyone but the common everyday person.
Wait, Destiny doesn't want to get into the uncomfortable issue? What? I'll get into the issue if you want. The reason why coronavirus is listed as a cause of death on a death certificate is because having a comorbidity means that you are going to be killed by the coronavirus earlier than if you wouldn't have had it. If you have 1, 2, 3, 4 comorbidities, if you're overweight, if you're diabetic, if you're older, if you've got hypertension or whatever, and you get killed by the coronavirus, did the coronavirus kill you or did you die because of your diabetes or hypertension? Yeah, it was probably the high blood pressure and the diabetes that probably killed you, but you wouldn't have died if you didn't have the coronavirus. This is how comorbidities work in every single other fucking disease you talk to. You're never actually killed. Most diseases don't kill you. I don't know if you knew that or not. Most diseases, like HIV, has not a single person in the history of the entire planet has been killed by HIV, ever, never. It has never, ever fucking happened. Because you don't die by having AIDS. HIV it just kills your white blood cells. It just kills your parts of your immune system. Opportunistic infections kill you. You sound like some guy that's like, oh, well, he didn't actually die by HIV. It was an opportunistic infection, bro. It's not HIV at all. Like, how fucking stupid are you? That's not how any medicine works. You can look at any number of medical examiners, any number of people that talk about how any of these statistics are counted. I'm pretty sure Fauci himself, other people in NIH, other people in CDC have talked about how these stats are tabulated and how they actually figure out like, oh, well, is this coronavirus death or is it not? There's reasons why the numbers change afterwards. They go through, they gather all the numbers, they go back and look at some they toss out, most they end up keeping. This idea, and even if we wanted to throw all of that, even if we wanted to get rid of all of that and say, oh, fuck, dude, comorbidities, you're right. All we could do is we could look up, oh, how about excess mortalities? If we look up excess mortalities in the United States, why are so many more fucking people dying? Fuck, just show me a goddamn graph. Why are so many more fucking people dying right now from comorbidities? How did that happen? Like, it doesn't make sense unless you're delusional. Destiny, well, I agree with you. Excess deaths isn't enough. Deaths can increase due to lack of help elsewhere. Heard this from my college professor. Okay, sure. But lack of help due to what? What's filling up hospitals that's causing people to not get help?
Who wants the job? That's the issue. There's not many people that want the job.
I want to ask if
Yeah, not to mention the, I think Destiny misunderstood the comorbidity argument. No, dude, we've gone through the comorbidity bullshit so much. People claiming that like, oh, in Florida, 90% of cases, what was the number? Like 94%, the big one, I think this was federally, not Florida. 94% of coronavirus cases weren't actually people dying because of the coronavirus. They were just dying because their fucking lungs stopped working. Oh, like, dude, you're so stupid. Oh my God.
how COVID is playing into your decision in November, and also kind of separately to that are you thinking about normalcy? Because we've seen.
No, they're saying the U.S. has a higher rate of comorbidities, so coronavirus kills people. What about, just look at how many people are infected? Does having a comorbidity mean you're even more likely to get infected? Which comorbidities are we talking about? For instance, if we look up number of Australians with diabetes, because guess what? Australia's fat as fuck. Okay, in Australia, it's about 5%. I don't know if they measure it the same way. Obesity in Australia, 36% overweight, 31% obese. Obesity in the United States, 39%, 42.4 for obesity compared to 31% Australians, and then 36% overweight. Okay, I think we have similar numbers of overweight onwards. I think we have more obese people. So if we look at the difference between the United States and Australia, Australia's population is 25 million. So we'd expect that they would have about 1/15 the amount of cases. Do you think that 905 times 15, is this number going to get us to the 240,000 or whatever? Do you think do you think that it's a difference in comorbidities is explaining the difference between Australia and the United States here in terms of deaths? Like, really? Use Canada, it's 38 million. I don't know if Canada has similar rates of obesity. Also, there are other comorbidities as well. I'm just going by obesity too, but.
You know, I'm a registered pharmacist with the Mass State Board of Pharmacy, and I've studied many years.
Wait, what? He's a registered pharmacist?
And I don't know, our masks that we're making us wear, they're not even effective. I mean, it's not an N95 certified mask. You could go to a 99-cent store and buy or put a handkerchief around you, and it's going to protect you from these micron-sized particles. Give me a break. I mean, they taught me in pharmacy school that you quarantine the sick, not the healthy. I mean, everything seems backwards. And I'm like,
When you cough or sneeze, you don't cough micron-sized viral particles out of your mouth. It's the phlegm and the other large-scale stuff that comes out that carries the virus with it. The goal of a handkerchief isn't to block free-flowing movements of viral things just flying through the air. It's the stuff that comes out of your mouth, the droplets that come out of your mouth that's on like 2 orders of magnitude larger in scale that are blocked by the handkerchief. Droplets, yeah. I don't understand how that guy could make such an astoundingly fucking clueless comment. Not to mention the fact that we've literally seen studies now. We finally are getting studies out of masks actually being effective at reducing both the transmission and the, not acquisition, the transmission when you transmit to someone else and the infection, I guess, I don't know what you say, of people that are actually wearing these masks.
I'm sorry. I'm not going to take it.
My favorite thing are these people that say that the mask isn't large enough to block or isn't fine enough to block the virus, but it is large enough to make it so that oxygen and carbon dioxide can't exchange. Those are my favorite ones, where I don't know if they think the virus is smaller than molecules of oxygen or carbon dioxide, but I don't know, man. This is fucking Schrodinger's mask, dude. We've got fucking waveforms collapsing every time we try to see what's getting in or out of our fucking mask, I guess.
And I don't think it's not the president's fault if someone doesn't wear a mask. That's a personal decision. If you think it's going to work or you don't, I mean, that's a personal decision.
I feel like our sense of normalcy is gone, yes. But I feel like out of fear, I should not be forced to get a vaccine that I don't need. I don't feel like all the vaccines that are given to my children are needed. I'm the mother of 4 boys, 2 of which are autistic. And I've done my own studies. We won't speak on that. But I don't really feel like the first vaccine that comes out necessarily is going to be a quick fix. Can we take some time? Can we figure this out? Because it's going to take more than a couple ideas. This didn't just happen overnight. It will not be cured overnight. And everyone rushing into this thing that we call a vaccine. How do we know it is working or it is not working?
And Stephen.
Yes, I think also another problem is, unfortunately, one the president has brought upon himself, his tendency towards conspiracy theories, and then suggesting medications. Now, my late dad worked in public health for 52 years, a doctor, worked in public medicine for 52 years. And again, a vaccine just to have Operation Warp Speed, it sounds very like they're skipping some tests. And I think I would take the vaccine, but do I want to be the first one? Do I want to be the guinea pig? Now, we know people are getting it right now here in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Pfizer is manufacturing the vaccine. We're on our stage 3 trials with this. So far, it appears good, but that doesn't mean it's going to be good for everybody, because we're seeing other companies that are having people. Someone just died a few days ago from one of the other experimental ones. They're still evaluating it. I think the problem is there's this sort of anti-science perception that's happening. What about the CDC?
I could be wrong, but these people seem way more extreme than what I'd expect of an undecided voter. Every undecided voter is extreme. Extremely stupid.
What happened to the meetings at the White House? My gosh, it's like all of a sudden Dr. Fauci is the enemy. I mean, it's like that kind of distracting and tragic nonsense. These people are dedicated professionals who've spent their entire lives working on research, and Dr. Fauci in particular. So yeah, that's my. I'm sorry, I'm going on too long, Frank. I apologize.
You blame Trump for that?
I think he's fishing for ideas. I think he doesn't know. He wants people that perhaps identify with his view of what.
I disagree with this guy's conclusion, but this is actually a reasonable argument. If you've had a president that's peddled conspiracy theories to you over and over and over and over and over again, and now is like warp speeding through a vaccine telling you that you need to take it, I can understand why people would be worried about that.
Be like we have this thing with hydroxychloroquine. Is it any good?
Trump? I'm asking you a question. Do you blame Trump for this?
I would say you'd have to, in a way, because he started a process, but then his own process, he kind of like derailed it. I mean, it turns into a chaotic situation where nobody knows what's the truth. Is the science right or isn't it right? Is our master expert who's been with us for 30 years right or isn't he right? So that comes down to the psychology of the leadership, unfortunately, in my opinion.
Matt, thank you very much. I got a couple more people I got to go to.
Why are undecided voters stupid? Because they're usually just fucking crazy. There's a neoliberal tweet that's actually really important. Like, people imagine that an undecided voter is like this careful moderate that's carefully weighing the policy positions of both sides, where it's like, I'm an undecided voter because I recognize the strengths of Donald Trump's rhetoric and his character, while I'm also balancing against the careful policy provisions that I think Biden could make. Like, this is how people view an undecided voter. An undecided voter is actually instead like, duh, I like Yang because I thought UBI would solve every problem. Now that Yang is gone, I kind of want to go for fascism, and I don't know what I want now. I'm trying to think. That's like what an undecided voter actually is. Undecided voters are not these arbiters of truth and justice that are very carefully weighing like the pros and cons of both sides. They're usually fringe extremists that are like just beyond fucking lost and are totally disconnected and uninformed of the political process. And then we kind of look to them to see like what they're doing. You know, like we peer into the zoo every now and then to see what's going on.
Guys, who do you believe would do a better job of the economy after listening to the debate tonight? Joe Biden or Donald Trump? By show of hands, who would say Joe Biden? Who would say Donald Trump? Okay, clearly Trump is the clearly by that, Trump is the preferred candidate. Jennifer, why do you Trump? Oh, God damn it. Now, this.
on TV.
It's like I just play someone. I'm not even playing that person well. I'm not even, it's been a long day. Let me restart this because I'm actually going to use this segment on CNBC tomorrow. Almost all of you think Donald Trump is preferable on the economy after watching the debate tonight. Jennifer, why do you choose Trump over Biden?
I would choose Trump over Biden on the economy issue, just because of the fact that I believe that he has skills and has the knowledge and skill set to actually bring us ahead. I think that prior to COVID, the first 3 years of his presidency, he was doing great. And then COVID happened, and our economy has obviously gone into the tanker. And if there's somebody who's going to be able to get us out, I believe it's going to be him.
Elizabeth, I'm curious because there's stuff about Trump you don't like, and yet on the economy, you clearly believe he's preferable. Tell me why.
Well, I mean, it's the last 3.5 years, the economy was great prior to COVID, better than it ever was before. Our 401ks have grown like crazy. And even in this pandemic, look at the stock market. It's crazy. Everybody had jobs. And you know what? Here in Georgia, everybody can still have a job. Everywhere I go, there's help wanted signs everywhere.
Tasha, why do you think, and you have some very specific issues about Trump, but why do you think he's better on the economy?
Because like Jennifer said, it will take a special skill set. And just being a businessman, he has showed us that he can recover in many different areas.
Jill?
I am also concerned about Joe Biden's tax plan. So we know that Trump has shown us that we can have a good economy under him. And then Biden's tax plan, I mean, if 50 Cent is worried about it, I'm worried about it too. So, and I have the money that 50 Cent has, but I'm worried about it.
Okay, Holly, who's going to be better on the economy?
I think Trump is better on the economy. Its job growth has been strong throughout his 3.5 years up until the pandemic hit. Stock market has been up. He's created a lot of new jobs. He has brought manufacturing back to America. And like others have touched on, I just really think that he has a much stronger skill set and a much stronger background to lead us through this challenging economic time rather than Joe Biden.
I'm dumbfounded because most of you are pretty critical of Trump's behavior, and yet you're very supportive of how he handles the economy.
So Frank, I'm not an economist by any means or stretch of the imagination, but one of the things that I remember from my econ class at UCLA was that raising the minimum wage has unintended consequences, and low skilled workers that raising the minimum wage is intended to help. They often get pushed out of jobs that they'll get pushed out of jobs that would pay them that higher wage. So Yeah. Joe Biden lost me when he said that on like economics.
We lost you in economics. That's a pretty big deal. Keith?
I was say I'm very much in favor of raising the minimum wage, but
I think this is just something that I've looked into like over and over and over again. When people try to look at like the minimum wage, like here, like this red line here is the minimum wage. This idea that minimum wage like increases or correlates with unemployment, I've just never seen this ever in my entire life. I don't think it's true. I imagine you could probably find like some very, very, very disparate impact on like specific subsets of workers in certain regions, maybe. But this idea that raising the minimum wage just increases unemployment, I just don't think it's true.
Okay.
Yeah, a 15 an hour national minimum wage, I'm not in favor of that. I think that's probably too much. And the idea that the minimum wage should be the same place in Washington, California, and New York as it should be in like Montana, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Ohio, it seems unlikely to me. Maybe it shouldn't even be a national minimum wage, or I'm sorry, maybe not even state minimum wages. Maybe there should be city minimum wages, or maybe there should be a national minimum wage that's pegged on the cost of living in your city. Maybe something like that I'd be okay with, but the minimum wage needs to be weighted geographically because it just doesn't make sense that somebody living in downtown Los Angeles has the same minimum wage as somebody living in a rural place in South Dakota. Yeah, 15 an hour flipping burgers in South Dakota, you'd live like a literal fucking king. I felt like I lived like a king when I was making 15 an hour in Nebraska, dude. Back in 2008, dude, when I was working at the casino, that was unreal. Holy shit.
I was very struck by the difference when Frank asked you to give one word to describe Biden and Trump's performance. Biden, some of you said vague, very vague, nonspecific, cognitively impaired, old, uncomfortable, drunk, elusive, grandfatherly, and defensive. With Trump, it was controlled, composed, constrained, reserved, poised, con artist. Presidential, controlled, calmer, restrained. Is that a big difference from the last time? And could it make a difference in how you ultimately decide to vote?
Yes, we've been wanting to see this man act presidential for 3 years, and he hasn't. And I mean, we get a glimpse of it, and it gives us hope, right? We went in, I think.
How can you be getting hope? The time for hope is past, honey. I'm sorry. We're 4 years in. It's over, dog. You can't be getting hope at the end, at the fucking sundown of this guy's presidency. Jesus fuck.
We haven't had that hope really since the elections of Barack Obama. As Jennifer spoke earlier, the past couple of elections have not been exciting. And we want someone to bring us something. And we know that we trust Trump on the economy, but we don't trust what he's going to say. Tonight, he gave us a little bit of hope that he could be presidential. The past two debates, not at all.
Is your life better off now than it was 4 years ago? Who says better?
Most people say it's better, according to the
who
polls.
Says
most
not
people
better.
Yeah.
And then I would ask, do you feel the country is better off now than it was 4 years ago? Who says better? Who says not better? Thanks.
I'm a black man in America. This is the America that I inherited. This is the America that I always knew. So, I mean, I want to be sensitive and say, for you all, it may, be something new, but this has been my experience, and I'm a 38-year-old man. This is nothing new to me, and that's why I said, my disposition, my position in America, it hasn't changed anything. I feel like if anything, it's forced people to talk about issues of race, and these are literally things for since we were emancipated, that we've been coming to our fellow countrymen, just asking for equal, seat at the table, and now it's like all of a sudden people are willing to listen. It's like, the country is in such disarray, but you all have had a glimpse of what it is to be black in America for the past, 6-7 months. This is generational.
But you went to UCLA.
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
I'm a United States Army veteran.
Well, thank you for your service, and you deserve to go to UCLA. But that's far better college than I had. So who's privileged? I mean, you worked. My husband's a veteran. But he never went to UCLA.
Okay.
I would take it different. I don't think my life has been anything of one of privilege. If anything, I kind of feel like my life, it has typified pulling yourself up by your bootstraps.
Well, I think everybody does. And I wish you well. You're the kind of person I think things are going to turn around for you, and you're going to do very well for yourself.
He's one of the good ones, true.
I am an international human rights lawyer, and he did talk about how many kids are brought in through trafficking. Now, do we know? I feel like as the average person in America, I don't know if those children, many of them were brought in from human trafficking, or whether they truly were separated. Joe Biden said that they were separated from their parents. I would like a clear answer on that. I feel like we don't have a real clear answer on that. But I also thought that Trump did seem strong somewhat in his answer, and that he said that Biden built. How
can you be an international human rights trafficking lawyer? Is that what she said she was? And she's an undecided voter this far in? Who are these people?
I mean, in our discussion.
Why are 90% of the people here from red states rather than swing states on some certain political trends? So the top battleground states right now: Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Arizona. So North Carolina, I don't know why I've got Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Florida, Georgia, maybe Georgia is right now. I'm not sure. I would imagine Georgia's pretty red, right? Oh, fuck, am I wrong? Hold on. RCP, Georgia, presidential election. Isn't Georgia kind of close? Is it? I don't know. I haven't looked at Georgia at all. Oh, holy shit. Okay, never mind. Georgia's in play as well. RCP averages are shit. I mean, I'm just going by averages right now. I don't know. Damn, dude, this could be a fucking blowout election. So Georgia. Oh, damn. Are there just no good polls working in Georgia right now? So fairly even. Jesus, this is gonna be a crazy election night. Holy shit. How are we doing in my? Okay, never mind. Fuck you, Nebraska.
We talked about how Trump was able to appear at least strong, but I don't know whether I believe him on that.
Honestly, I don't think either candidate kind of came out ahead or behind. Obviously, it's a horrific thing to happen to separate children from their parents. But again, I thought it was really weird that Joe Biden just refused to answer yet another question, especially when he said, well, who built the cage? And I think the reporter even gave 10 seconds and Biden said no. So I thought that was odd. When was the last time you heard a candidate say no, he doesn't want more time?
Corporate attorney and investment advisor, Georgia state representative. Did real Donald Trump just say 545 kids they can't find their parents for came over through cartels and coyotes? How the hell does a coyote bring a whole human across the border? Lord, stop talking. So coyotes are like names for people that I think you give like your children to smuggle. Colloquially, a coyote is a person paid by migrants to illegally guide or assist them across the U.S.-Mexican border. Or I guess they can be people that help you get across as well. It doesn't have to be children, sorry. But yeah, these are like people that it's not like an actual coyote. It's not like, maybe it could be, I guess, if it's a really well-trained coyote. Maybe it's possible. I mean, I'm not gonna go ahead and rule that out. I mean, it's coyote. I have no idea I don't know if that works.
To try to stop the caravans and do
Oh, it is? Okay, I don't know. I don't know how you would pronounce this. No, the accent is on the single list. Coyote. Coyote? Coyote? It wouldn't be coyote, right? It'd be coyote. I think? I don't know. Close enough. Some Hispanic guy in chat will know.
If the election were held today, I'm going to ask each one of you. If the election were held today, for whom would you vote?
I don't know. Honestly, don't know. I guess Trump. I don't know.
Right now, I'd go with Trump because the other candidate, he's been there for a long time and he has a lot of knowledge, but is that going to do it? You still need this sort of maverick.
If Texas goes blue, do you think it'll stay blue, or is it going blue because of Trump? I have no idea. No one knows. You can try to ask people to predict, but nobody fucking knows. Okay. Here, hold on, because I have some people. Please, can you guys please do this? Please do this for me, okay? I'll do this. I'll follow through. I have in the past. If you are following other political streamers and they are confidently trotting out these predictions about what will happen, please, 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 please force them to bet real money and show you their bets. Otherwise, tell them to shut the fuck up or temper what the fuck they're saying, okay? If you're gonna have people like me that are out here making these strong predictions and they're gonna put their reputation behind it, put a little bit of money behind it as well. If you're so confident that somebody's gonna win or somebody's gonna leave, if you're so confident on that, then put some money behind it, dog. Are you gonna make any bets? Yeah, fucking actually, wait, what is predicted? I'll put 1,000 on Biden or whatever at least like the mandated, at least what's allowed. Oh yeah, and it's even like decent odds, 64-41. Yeah, fuck it. I'll do it. I'll do it right now. Yeah, I think anybody that's going to make predictions or whatever, like you should put some money on it. Like if you're going to come out here, you're going to be so fucking strong and so brave about it, then put some money on it, dog. Ooh, I already cashed out my Bernie win. No, I mean my Biden win against Bernie in Iowa, I think. Was it just in Iowa or was it overall? I think it was overall.
When you're that undecided, a lot of times it's just the easier thing to go with the incumbent. And so I say that I want to write in somebody, but I may just vote Trump, except for my conscience in a lot of ways really keeps me from wanting to do that, frankly.
How much did you make off that? I think I bet $850. I think I made like $30. It was not worth it.
I go back and forth every day, and I hear from my wife, and my wife is a Biden supporter, and my neighbors are all Trump supporters. And again, if I had to make a decision based on this debate and this debate only, I would go with Trump.
If I had to go with one person, I would say probably Trump, because I mean, at least he has proven something in his 4 years that he has, kind of turned around the economy, provided jobs for people, and I mean, I honestly think that he has a personality problem, to be honest. But I mean, he has shown what he can do. And I mean, we all have our flaws and stuff like that. I mean, nobody is perfect. I mean, this election, in itself is not perfect. But I mean, if those were the only two of the local evils, then I would just choose him.
It sounds like some shit you say when you get caught plagiarizing. Fucking call it. Hey man, nobody's perfect.
According to tonight, I would be voting for Donald Trump. based on the information that he was able to answer. Whereas Joe Biden was very elusive. He seemed like he may not have been as quick on the draw. And I can't fully give myself to someone that I need to lead us as a nation.
Very begrudgingly, Trump. I think tonight just proved that Donald Trump can be presidential and can control himself and be restrained. But ultimately, I do question his character. But when it boils down to it, I really trust him on policy more than I trust Biden.
And everybody, we are now done.
It's called the U.S. flag, you stupid fuck. This is the only flag that the United States federally has and recognizes. Why the fuck are you acting like a different